What is going on today, guys? Today is 120. So, that being said, road to a payout, right? I just want to say, um, takes time, and I've come to realize that there's no point in rushing the process. So when it comes to trades, entering trade, finding a trade, all of that, I simply need to wait for my turn. Simply need to wait for my setup. I've been more calm and more at peace and more balanced these past couple of weeks. That is due to breathing, simply breathing. Just simple inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And it's been helping me with, you know, feeling those emotions, because when you're in those tight situations where your body starts to kind of freeze up and feel like all the walls are caving in, like your chest is super heavy, it's good to breathe, especially in those moments. So I feel that a lot. I feel very anxious when I trade, so the breathing helps a lot. That being said, let's get into what I was seeing today, how I was feeling, what I did and what I didn't do, right? Market open, 6 o'clock candle was still forming right here. We're coming to this 4-hour range, and we're respecting it. We're moving out of it. In Q, right? We also had this 4-hour gap below, but we had this daily gap right here that I wanted to see get hit, either trade up to it or trade out of it. So when market open, we had price shoot up, come into the daily gap, and shoot right back out. Now, once I saw that, there's not many draws to the upside. It's really just real far, all the way up here. So, and NQ was closest to that. So, didn't want to take longs after I saw price come into the daily gap, right? So I was going to trade out of it. We got a nice IFEG on the 5-minute right here. And then we got a nice equilibrium retracement, right? Things are setting up beautifully. Very nicely coming off this. So price confirmed on the 5-minute. We're going to continue moving down. And now we just needed to see retracement and pullback. Saw that right here. Nice pullback. But not until 9:41 right here did we get an entry where we broke structure or inversed the gap. So once we got that, right, I didn't want to enter on that trade. Why? Because my targets were down here, right? This was my final take profit, which you see clearly got hit. And that was the 1-hour low that was going to come into the 4-hour gap. So I knew that's exactly where I wanted to see price reverse, and that's exactly what it did, right? So as you can see, the RR on this is atrocious, right? 0.74, not even a 1-to-1. And for me to take this trade, I wanted my stops to be above where price tapped into equilibrium, which was this 5-minute candle on 9:35. So didn't end up taking the trade. RR was pretty terrible. So we saw it play out without us, which I definitely experienced some FOMO, which is all right. But I didn't believe that was a good setup. You know, I mean, coming down to the wire of the entry, it wasn't a good setup. Now, right here on the 5-minute, looks great. Then we started chopping up, right? Came down, finally hit that, and then we shoot right back up. And at this point, I knew that price was going to reverse off this low, when it tapped into the 4 hour right here. So I wasn't even looking to trade longs because this high, right, and this and the daily gap had already gotten hit, and that would have been my targets. Next targets were all the way up here, which still hasn't even got hit. So I had no draws to the upside. I had no draws to the downside. So I just decided to get off. Even though, look, you can see right here, this wasn't a bad setup. Actually, not right here. On ES, sorry. ES made a pretty good setup. And, you know, ES draws were still not taken, but NQ had already taken them. So I trade based on the correlated pairs and based on highs and lows on both indexes, right? So even those played out pretty smoothly. You could see came into the 4 hour. I'd want to take reversal longs off this. This is the only only other setup that I saw after I got off that was pretty decent. So we inverse the 5 minute right here, and you can see price taps back into the equilibrium. So honestly, I would have probably got stopped out of this trade because as you can see, price tapped in here, price tapped in here, right? Two different places. And you could see that price came down, tapped in, made an entry, and then swept the low. And my stops usually are right below here. So on two different occasions, you could see it would have stopped me out. I actually am curious to see where the entry on NQ was. $10.25. Damn. Yeah, entry would have been all the way up here. Unless. Yeah. 10.18. Okay, maybe I wouldn't got stopped out because it did present an entry right here. So this would have been the entry, which is exactly why I trade the way I trade. Because I trade based on both correlated pairs, and as you can see, if I didn't trade that way, which this has happened before and I've recorded this, then I entered here, when I didn't see an entry on NQ, that's how you get stopped out. And, you know, seeing 1 minute entry confirmation on both indexes gives me a better grasp and better confirmation, better probability, of course. So, yeah, it would have played out. I mean, we could have targeted all the way up here. We would have hit for 1 to 2. But honestly, yeah, I got off before then. Then again, these draws, you know, I can keep going back and forth here, and I can keep going back and forth, and you know, blame myself or say that I missed out. But what does it matter, bro? You know, at the end of the day, the way I see this could be different than others. Someone could have taken this trade, but for me, this didn't look so good at the time. These highs had already been taken out by NQ, right? And we were inside of our daily gap. So honestly, no, I wouldn't have taken this trade. Even though we were seeing a setup, seeing confirmation. So honestly, that's why I didn't take a trade today. And I've been trying to take more A+ setups, right? Take more A+ setups and risk a little bit more. instead of taking a bunch of B setups and, slowly losing the account. I just simply didn't see today as a good day, right? And anybody else could have seen that differently. But that's just simply the way that I saw it today. And I think it was for the best. I see. I was in this cycle of simply what I'm experiencing right now, right? So just say yesterday I didn't take a trade. Let's see. I haven't taken a trade since. Oh, I haven't taken a trade in a week, right? So, and that's simply because I haven't seen anything that was catching my attention, was giving me any a setup. Simply, these 3 days were all V-shaped inversions. Yesterday was also a V-shaped inversion. Today, there's a bit more structure, but draws and liquidity just weren't there for me, so I didn't take a trade and I got off. But as I was saying, this is something I've been struggling with, right? Where I would stop taking trades, and then I'd feel like I'm not doing anything, and then I'd start taking a bunch of trades, and then the cycle would repeat over and over again. And I was getting nowhere. It's like this continuous circle. But now the way I see it is that I'm not experiencing FOMO. I'm not experiencing fear in the market, right? I understand those emotions and I control them to the best of my ability. Of course, I'm going to feel those emotions, but I don't let them control my actions. So a day like today, for example, where I did see a setup, but it wasn't high probable, it wasn't high probability, and I wouldn't have taken it, and I did take it. But I also feel that feeling of I need to do something, so I need to take a trade, feeling that validation of taking a trade, so it feels like you're doing something so that you're working towards something. But in reality, and then especially in this trading shit, doing nothing is making progress. And I'm simply sitting here, being patient for a setup every single day, being patient, doing the same actions, and not allowing myself to fall into emotional decisions every single day until I see a setup that is high probability and is within my probability and my strategy and my system. So even though it might feel that you are doing nothing, you are doing something, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but that part of doing nothing is very fucking boring, right? It sucks. It feels terrible, but in reality, you are training your mind. What progress you are making on the chart is actually within you, within your head. And so, if you can master this up here, get everything right up here, then everything will reflect on the chart. So, like I'm saying, you are making progress, even though you might not see it. That is why you have to feel it within. And sometimes you can't see it. Maybe you weren't waiting for your strategy. Now you are. Maybe you were experiencing FOMO, but now you aren't. It's all about what goes on inside of your head. And you have to be the one to be okay with not actually seeing any money being made, any accounts being passed, any payouts being requested. Just simply have to understand and be aware of your decisions, your actions, and your feelings, and understand how you are actually evolving as a person and a human. Actually understanding that I don't have to take a trade every single day to make progress. And it doesn't even have to be a trade that I win to make progress. It's simply that the progress that I'm making is that I'm getting good at following my rules. I'm mastering following my rules. And once you can get to that point where you can be good at following your rules, it'll be so easy for you to start taking profits, to start getting payouts. So that is the mindset I'm currently in. I'm not perfect. I have no payouts. I have no credibility behind what I'm saying. But guess what? You could either take it with a grain of salt or you could try to incorporate this mindset and see how it feels for you. Because guess what? I might not be making anything, but I'm learning and I'm trying. And not only that, I don't feel the constant pressure. I don't feel the stress. I don't feel that I'm lacking or behind or that I don't have enough or I'm not enough. I simply have everything I could ask for right now. I have food on the table, I have a roof over my head, I have a job, I have income. Of course I want more, but I'm grateful for everything that I have now. Once you start understanding that following your rules is what you need to get good at to see consistent profits, then you will understand that every day doesn't need to be a winning day. Every day, you don't need to take a trade to feel that you are moving forward, because doing nothing is moving forward. And in some cases, you might not do anything because you're experiencing an emotion that causes you to freeze up. So in those times is when you got to be aware of your strategy, your actions, what you should have done, and what you shouldn't do. But I'm simply at that state where I don't really care to take a trade. I don't care to win or lose. I just simply want to be good at following my rules. I want to simply be good at doing the things I said I'm going to do every single day. That's what gives me true fulfillment, true happiness, and joy. So find what gives you that fulfillment. It doesn't have to be the same following your rules, but something along the lines of that you understand, that you have value in. It could be just chatting, or it could be speaking the truth. That being said, this is a long video. Just wanted to get some things off my chest, just talk to you guys. I I do feel that feeling of not taking a trade doesn't get me anywhere. But you gotta remember that doing nothing is progression. Sometimes even taking that trade that you shouldn't have can cost you a lot of months of progress. Just remember, doing nothing is actually doing something. That being said, guys, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.